Wrestling fans, I'm here with Nick Bockwinkel, former AWA heavyweight champion. His name is synonymous with the AWA championship. Nick, thanks for joining us here on WrestleVision.
My pleasure.
We're here at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the 2004 inductee ceremony. You were here last year. How was it to see a lot of your old friends and adversaries?
It's always fun. It was a very hard profession. It was one that had a certain magnetism that just kept you in it, and especially if you were fortunate enough to do well and make a good living at it. And plus I'm second generation. So my father, he wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr., or Mick McMahon's grandfather, back in the late 30s. So with having been in this walk of life all these years, and then having been fortunate enough to accomplish what I did, and far surpassing my own father's accomplishments, it's very nice. It's very nice.
If you had to rank yourself, I mean, you've had one of, as far as the AWA championship, you held it for a very long time. I mean, your name is up there with the San Martinos. Your name is up there with the Backlunds, the Flairs, the Funks. How do you rate yourself among the company of former champions?
I would like to think that in all the names that you just gave, on any given day, any one of us would notch out the other by a quarter of an inch on a 100-yard race. And that was the nature of the profession. It's like most sports teams. You can blow the first 4 games of the year, and then all of a sudden you're a big success, and yet look like an absolute fool the first time around. And having been in it all my life, there was one ranking that some guy gave, and he said I was number 8 in the, I think of all of them in the past 100 years. And he says he didn't do anything really special, but what he did do, he did well, which I kind of liked, because I couldn't drop kick as high as Jim Brunzell. I wasn't as handsome as Rick Martel, those kind of things. And so I just worked hard at my craft, and undoubtedly what I did, and I did it well enough to be able to maintain the position that I did.
I mean, you're always able to hang on to that championship, whether it was hook or crook. I mean, you hung on to the title.
You name it, that's exactly it. I mean, it's kind of like, if you're going to play the chess games, you've got to know all the little chess moves, even the sneaky, dirty ones.
And I'm sure you learned a few from your manager at the, I mean, he managed you in the AWA. Bobby Heenan mentions you in his book. What did you miss? I mean, when Bobby left, I mean, what was the main, what was the biggest thing you missed about having him around?
I was able to go on, quote, without him, but he was just such a tremendous asset. Not that I couldn't possibly have accomplished what I did without him. I think I could have. But to have him, he's one of the most brilliant, intelligent, extremely quick-witted individuals, and I tried to pay a tribute to him at the Cauliflower Alley Club just a few weeks ago in Las Vegas, and I said, when he was managing Mr. Stevens and I, on any given night, that sometimes our playing was delayed, Mr. Bach will not be able to make it, the tag team championship match they'd be announcing is still going to go on, because Stanley Blackburn has said that Mr. Heenan must wrestle in Mr. Bockwinkel's place. And the crowd would roar, they would explode.
Because they want to see him get beat up.
Oh, but that part's true. But at the same time, what he delivered when he took my place or took Ray's place was every bit as good as what either one of us could deliver. And I mean, if one of us got laid up for 6 months and Bobby took the place, there wouldn't be a beat a temple missed, because he was the most accomplished manager of any of them ever. Plus, he could get in the ring, and he was just that superb of a performer in the ring. I mean, he was that good, of championship caliber.
You mean you've wrestled the virtual who's who in wrestling? I mean, as AWA champion, you defended it, West Coast, East Coast, Southwest, I mean, everywhere. Who did you enjoy working with? I mean, you had some great campaigns, but what stands in your mind as one of your biggest feuds?
A man that stands out in my mind that I stepped into the ring with many times would have been Billy Robinson. He didn't quite attain, needless to say, the belt or the status that I was able to attain, but as a professional, he was superb technician. He was one of the greater mechanics of the profession. He was smooth, and I mean, he was that good. Ganya was terrific. Other people that I wrestled, Jerry Lawler. I had some great battles.
Big-time battles.
Big-time battles with Jerry Lawler. He was a tremendous talent. And I did enjoy going around, and I went to the Carolinas, I went to Georgia. I guess I was the first AWA that kind of went to these different places in the heart of NWA country. And so that was a tremendous compliment at the time to me. And they had some great people there, and I enjoyed every time I had to work with any of them.
Your campaign with Hogan, I mean, he came so close. He just could never get the title. There was some reversal. There was always something up your sleeve, and you always, he could never take the title from you. How was your experience working with Hulk Hogan?
Good. And it wouldn't have been a problem for Hogan, but Hogan came along, I don't want to say fairly fast, because I read his book, and I understand how they broke his leg, and he paid his dues to get in. And what I always admired was, I always wanted to know, whenever I was wrestling, I would send the second from my dressing room over to the other dressing room and see how prepared the opponent I was going to go into the ring with, how prepared he was. Was he warmed up? Was he ready? Oh, the whole thing. And my own personal logic was that if I knew this guy was warmed up and idling at about 3,000 RPM, that once we stepped into the ring, if the show got on the road instantly, like right now, he was ready, and so was I. And so I respected that professionalism. Hogan was one of those who was always idling at about 4,000 RPM when he came in. And so he was always ready to go. And that's to be admired. That's stating that he was a true professional.
I mean, I read about you growing up in the magazines. When I was growing up, there was no computer, so I read about you, and at the time, I didn't have cable, and AWA, Nick Bockwinkel, and
Gotcha.
I've always admired you. What are you doing these days besides being involved with the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? What else keeps you busy?
The Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, California, and out in Vegas where I live now, Cauliflower Alley Club, which just took place a couple of weeks ago. And I lovingly say that I'm the concierge of fine artifacts, which means I'm in charge of storage and hauling. So when we come into town once a year, I go get the U-Haul van and get all the stuff out of storage to put up for the thing. But so I'm out there, and I got into the not in the real estate, but into the life insurance business about it's been about 15 years ago, just about the time when I retired from professional wrestling, and after I got through with being commissioner down at WCW.